Here we are at the beginning of a long corridor decorated with two sections of the book of the Amduat. The Duat for Egyptians tells the story of Ra, the sun god, during the 12 hours of the night. It is the world where the dead live, what we call the afterlife. The Egyptian title, the Amduat, literally means that which is in the afterworld, which designates the underground dwelling of Osiris. The Amduat resembles a comic strip which covers the 12 hours of the night. It describes hour by hour the voyage of the soul of Ra, the Ba, in the underworld. It depicts the creatures the soul meets and the places it passes through. The strange creatures and obscure divinities are sometimes allies and sometimes enemies. The king's soul, assimilated to the sun, must accomplish the dangerous journey to be reborn at the end of the 12th hour. Thus, the king becomes, like the sun, immortal and divine. To succeed, he will have to name the creatures, find his way through, know activities to perform, and words to pronounce. The vignettes and texts written on the wall are a complete guide for the dead pharaoh. For the first 3 hours, which are not shown in Ramses III's tomb, the solar bark advances on peaceful waters. In the 4th hour, the solar bark enters into an obscure and dangerous world and slides over a sandy route. It is the world of Sokar. The texts tell us that Sokar is a kind of sun god representing the union of Osiris in the form of Sokar and Ra. In other words, the Osirification of Ra and the solarization of Osiris. You're lost? Me too. Never mind, let's go on. Here we study the 4th hour. It is divided into 3 parts called registers. In contrary to most tombs, the wall is read from top to bottom and the registers from left to right. A zigzagged sandy road with fire and blocked by doors descends from the top to the bottom register. The first register starts with an unknown deity wearing the crown of Lower Egypt. Opposite her, the snake with a human head and 4 legs guards the door behind him. All the snakes represented here are there to protect and light up the route. Another protector, the scorpion deity Serket, and an upright cobra, and a deity offers 2 new vases. The 3-headed snake, the perfect god, lives in plenty thanks to his 2 falcon wings, his body and his head. After, there is a snake with 2 heads, whose name is Nehekau. Then comes a crocodile-headed god, the one who prays with his head, and a falcon-headed divinity who glorifies the Duat. Finally, for the upper register, 2 goddesses, Reziut and Neet, represent respectively Upper and Lower Egypt. Ra, in the form of a ram, which he takes after dark, is standing in his bark. The bark has metamorphosed into a 2-headed serpent, whose flaming breath guides the procession in the darkness. The crew is made up of 7 deities. For the first time, the solar bark has to be towed to move forward. As the road zigzags, the bark passes through the first door. In front of the door is Osiris, holding his staff of power, the Heka. In the centre of this section, Tot gives the Ujet eye to Horus, symbol of legitimate power that the sun receives from his father Osiris. Then comes the guardians of the sacred earth. The end of the middle register ends with 4 deities carrying a key of life in their right hand, except in this case the first deity, not named, isn't holding one. And the last person is a goddess named Mistress of Life. The bottom register is badly damaged. A bark whose bow and stern are human heads transports the serpent Hedgnu, Soka's guardian. It is preceded by 4 divinities still visible, but as we progress the wall is in a poorer state. Here was represented the male serpent Amen to the left and a female serpent to the right. A human head protrudes from the body just before his tail. The last picture, situated the other side of an oblique path, has completely disappeared. One could see a serpent with 3 heads, Menmanu, carrying on his back 14 stars, surmounted by 14 human heads, themselves surmounted by solar discs. The last scene is found in a niche. It's well conserved and we will see it better the other side of the corridor. The 5th hour is an important step in the process of regeneration. It is also differently represented than the other hours. The 3 registers are not consecutive parts, but 3 views of the same road. I'm still going to describe the 3 registers one by one. The first register starts with a goddess carrying the feather of Mat, but whose name is indecipherable. She is opposite 9 pennants, which are ideograms of 9 gods of the Ennead of Heliopolis. The first is wearing the white crown of Upper Egypt. The last pennant is wearing the red crown of Lower Egypt. There follows a group of 4 divinities who are responsible for the pool of the drowned in the depths of hell. One of their missions is to protect the passage of the solar bark towards the waters of rebirth. Preceded by Anubis, they walk towards a mound of sand called the chest. Khepri, the beetle, is coming out, symbolizing the rebirth of the sun. Each side of the chest, which is supposed to contain the body of Osiris, are 2 birds representing Isis and Nephthys. The 2-headed serpent is the Ka of Osiris. He lives to hear Ra's voice each evening. He has never been anywhere else but hell. The 9 divinities which follow personify a recurring theme of the punishment of the enemies. They are dreadful murderers who must eliminate the enemies of Osiris. At the extreme right is Kermit, the devourer, in front of an enemy who is trying to remove an axe from his head. She drinks the blood and eats the rotting flesh of the dead. Here we see the solar bark as it was represented in the 4th hour. A welcoming hymn wishes peace to the arriving great god. The bark progresses thanks to a very long rope pulled by 7 anonymous gods, whose role is to tow the great god to Sokar's cave, which is explained by the texts above their heads. Khepri maintains the towing rope to go round the top of the chest above Isis's head. 7 anonymous goddesses hold the end of the rope. The register ends with 4 male divinities responsible for distributing food offerings in the cave. They are preceded by the goddess of the west, Imentet. Ra's bark has gone through the western door and is now in the heart of the kingdom of Sokar. The role of the first 4 divinities is to repulse and destroy the enemies. The serpent with a monkey's head lives thanks to the earthly god's voices. He enters and leaves without being seen. Sokar is standing inside a cave in the form of a cartouche enclosed inside the 2-headed sphinx Akka. The 2 lions are called the flesh. The word flesh is used to show that Sokar, Ra, Osiris and Akka ultimately form one and the same person, even though they have distinct aspects. Sokka holds in his hand the wings of a three-headed snake, whose eyes light up the hidden spaces of the Duat. It should have had only two snakes' heads and a human head at its tail. Right in front of the Sphinx's feet, another snake protects the oval. It doesn't go anywhere else in the Duat. The third register finishes with 4 seated divinities carrying their emblems on their knees. They are all looking backwards, but normally the first 2 should be looking forward in the direction of the door leading to the 6th hour, guarded by a snake standing on its tail. Then there is the same scene as at the end of the 4th hour, but this time in better condition. The paintings show the goddess Mat and a man indicating the passage towards the 6th hour. Khepri has the form of a winged solar disk above an empty alcove, looted since antiquity.